Okay, we're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Love First Christians weekly Bible study. Got some good stuff for us all today. I should be joined by some more folks later. They're busy with lives, as we all, as good and dutifully industrious Christians tend to do. They are busy, and that is okay. I look forward to seeing them when they get here and their thoughts and comments about some things. I hope you all are having a great week. I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you are just seeing this, welcome. If you'd like to be part of this conversation, or if you'd like to be part of the Discord group behind the scenes where we discuss more than just what you hear during the Bible study, we talk about the Bible as well as some other things. We're having a great discussion right now as far as what progressivism actually is, and kind of our thoughts, feelings, and our messaging around that subject. But welcome. If you'd like to join, there is a link to that in the description of this video to our Discord group. It is free. It is of no burden. If you just want to be there and not say anything, and then if just occasionally, if you have a question or something like that, you say, oh, I know some Christians who I could actually ask their point of view about this kind of thing. That's fine too. We're just a small little community, but doing some actually really awesome stuff and expanding in really positive ways. Anyhow, I will go ahead and get started with some Bible stuff, because who doesn't like a lot of that? So this first one I find fascinating. For those who say the Bible never contradicts itself, try this one on for size. The wording here is amazing. This is from Proverbs, back-to-back verses, by the way. Don't answer the foolish argument of fools, or you'll become as foolish as they are. Be sure to answer the foolish argument of fools, or they'll become wise in their own estimation. Now, there is a difference between a contradiction and a paradox, things that can't exist at the same time together, versus a paradox, which is things that seem like they shouldn't exist together, but there is some rhyme to it. Now, obviously, the author here put these two verses side by side for a reason. They aren't dumb. They are playing on this idea of the paradox, that you shouldn't answer anything but, hey, Bray, what up, fam? How you doing, my man? Bray here is burning the candle at both ends, picking up shifts for people that didn't show up, as well as leading an entire kitchen. Good for you, man. I've done the kitchen manager thing, and it is exhausting. I hope you feel some extra energy tonight, and I appreciate you being able to join us in it as much as you can. So these two verses obviously appear, like I said, they appear to contradict each other, but let's think about what the author's intent here is, because obviously they put these verses side by side. It's not like they don't know about one another. Alex is joining us, and Alex, I really appreciate you stepping in today, man. How are you doing? He might still be getting set up. I like added him as soon as he got here. And then we've got somebody who has apparently had a name change. But what's going on, Augustine? How are you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? It's my name.
Is that your name now? You go by Augustine? I'm no longer to call you that. I have a slave name.
No, my name. Okay. My name is Zach, obviously, but my Catholic name is Augustine.
Cool.
Or Augustine.
Is it Augustine? Is that how you're supposed to pronounce it?
Either way, it doesn't matter. It goes hand in hand. Tomato.
Okay, it's not. But like, if I say Augustine, I haven't committed like some kind of offensive. Okay, cool.
You've committed blasphemy.
Bray says, "Hey, what up, friends?" He's just glad to be here and home on time. Good. Oh, Bray, I'm glad you're home from your exhausting extra shift. Alex, are you around by chance? I know you're going to try to join. I just wanted to.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. Well, you guys are right in time for the first one that I had here. This is out of Proverbs, and I was just talking about the difference between paradox and contradiction. Contradiction are two things that can't exist at the same time. Paradox are two things that seem like they shouldn't be able to exist at the same time, but they may nevertheless be true. And in this part here that I have up on the screen, I'll just read it again. Don't answer the foolish argument of fools, or you will become as foolish as they are. Be sure to answer the foolish argument of fools, or they will become wise in their own estimation. Um, Zach, I'll go to you first. How would you square the circle, so to speak, on these what seem to be irreconcilable verses? I have my feelings on it, but we're told to both to answer them and be told to never answer them. What do we do, Zach, when we hear the foolish argument of fools?
The foolish argument of fools, huh? Common sense. Common sense. That's what I'm getting at in my mind. And we lack common sense a lot of times in our life. We really do. I mean, I remember I remember the term growing up, egghead. So you're too smart for your own good that you're stupid. So and
Yeah.
sometimes we act like we act a fool because we don't think with our ear. We just act. We're gonna be smart as a whip. We can know a lot, but then it comes to certain things that I mean, just certain life things that we muck it up. So and we do more wrong than we do good. Let's just put it that way. So
So, from your estimation, like common sense will help you navigate when you should or shouldn't answer a foolish
mhm,
argument of fools. Okay,
mhm.
I really like that answer, Alex. Any thoughts on that?
I'm gonna take a more traditional approach just because, like, I do like his idea, but I might just because this is kind of a new thing you've been looking at, like, for me at least, like, I haven't thought about hypocrisy in the Bible much.
Mhm.
Things that might not seem consistent, things that might seem paradoxical, things that don't make complete sense. I'm around a lot of people that would never touch that with a 10-foot pole and pretend it doesn't exist. So, for their sake, I might just try to look at the greater context of what was said before and after, just to see maybe if like a circumstantial thing. And so if like there are certain instances where you do ignore the fool, and certain instances where you do try to correct the fool.
Yeah. How would you how do you tell the difference? I guess like what leads you to decide when you correct the fool or when you ignore
Well, I can tell you for one, listening to Ludacris isn't going to help, but
them? Deep deep whoop whoop. Yeah.
but yeah, I'm not fully sure. Like I I don't know because I feel like I'm around a lot of fools when it comes to like talking to fellow Christians. Sometimes it's like people are so busy. Like if you end up around in a room full of Protestants, they're going to eventually fight each other over which color of carpet they have,
Right.
or they're going to sit there and pretend like that Greek and Hebrew doesn't matter at all, and they're just going to rely on the King James until they want to pick something out of another version of the Bible.
Mm.
And I think I'm going to have to like my way is trying to just navigate that because I know if I try to like deal with the fools, they're going to try to cherry pick different interpretations and verses like versions of the Bible to almost say slight variation of words maybe doesn't mean the same thing.
Yeah. I
I
think
agree.
you're both spot on here. Bray,
And
I think also right here. Go ahead, Zach, you first.
I was just gonna say, and I think that that culminates perfectly with the common sense would have it is that
Mhm.
you shouldn't be the one interpreting and arguing over interpretations. So we need to quit the infighting.
I
So,
think
but go ahead, Nody.
no, you're good.
That's what.
We get a lot of verses from Paul about these people have the over reliance on the scripture and the Mosaic law, right? And like this to the detriment of the spirit. And I think that whether we
Mm-hmm.
call it Holy Spirit or like you said, Zach, common sense. And I think Alex, what you're talking about, you're phrasing it a little bit differently, but I think I addressing like the same concept that
Yeah.
you can just kind of
I like it.
tell when somebody's arguing over a carpet color, right? Like you can just there kind of is a spirit about that. Bray, I think, is just going to add on to what we've said. The point is to be wary because either outcome can come from the same conversation based on your own thoughts and actions. And I think that is actually a really great point that sometimes we tell a lot about a person when they choose to stand down on a subject, when that's like they feel like when I recognize like bad actors in like the liberty movement, for example, they like get really strong about, like they want to talk about everything, but then they shut up when it comes to one issue. And it's so notable, right? Like when they've shut down that like they're saying something without saying something. And then conversely, I don't want libertarians to feel like they have to have a point of view about everything, because all of a sudden, if you're not an expert on the matter, you can do a lot of damage by chiming in and making us look bad. I think we've all had a conversation where kind of like leading somebody, maybe it's not the liberty movement, but just think about any conversation where you're trying to convince somebody of anything and they seem to be heading in the right direction. And then some idiot on your team like chimes in and just pushes them away, just sours them on the subject. And you're like, man, this would have been a really good time for you to clam up, like let me do my work here.
I
think,
resonate with that a lot because not to get like too specific with it, but I have a friend who took like 2 years basically, like maybe 3 or 4 actually, off of being a Christian because a priest tried to tell them that their cousin who committed suicide was going to hell, and the priest had no conviction in their voice as to where that person's, whether they're going to be damnation, whether they're going to be in heaven or somewhere else. They just had no conviction with it. And
that's severely damaging when people are looking for comfort. Oddly enough, suicide is what Martin Luther, this is just by folktale, but this was apparently his first act as act against the church, was standing up for somebody who had killed themselves. And people said, oh, they're in hell, they can't be buried with all the people who went to heaven. Martin Luther's like, cool, show me the Bible verse. And when that didn't manifest, he actually dug the grave himself. That's the way the story goes anyway. So like that's it just goes to show when like people, and I guess I don't want to change the subject, because Alex, your point is that this pastor chose to say, or I don't know,
priest, but
but church official chose to say nothing when the person really needed something to be said. And that non-committal nature to what has happened to somebody's soul, I mean, what good are you as a church leader if you can't at least offer some direction, right, where the person went? I think we tend to be, I think it's really sad when priests tend to be super sure that a gay person's burning in hell, but like, and a baby maybe as well, right? Because they haven't accepted anything, but but they're super sure they're going to heaven and all their congregants are going to be just fine. It says a lot.
I see that a lot at like Protestant churches, like to some of that, like just depending on kind of the community I guess you're in, like can influence them. But that part about gay people resonates with me a lot, because I know a lot of people who have considered leaving the faith because they're gay or lesbian or trans or bisexual, because they found themselves in a church where the people are just almost hateful because they don't want to learn. Like I don't know if I shared this experience with you, but I was in a men's group, group me, and I just kind of threw a grenade and ran with with one of your older posts that had popped up, and none of the men bothered to really engage with the content of it. They just said it was wrong and didn't really explain why they disagreed with it.
Yeah, I'm guessing that was my post about the Bible and homosexuality. Just
from like a billion years ago.
Yeah, it's I have since, people have wanted, because Facebook doesn't like it when you link too much. I've since like tried to clean that up and add some sources and stuff. But what's funny is with people like you're talking to with that, Alex, they don't want to engage with that source, right? Like to them, they found their version of the KJV. I don't even want to say King James version, because actually King James version doesn't translate it as homosexuality. So King James actually gets off the hook. They correctly identify the sins as pedophilia, right? Like they're spot on. So it's actually a modern, it was like a 1960s translation we had that added the word homosexuality in there.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, like that this is kind of a postmodern, and it's funny because like usually these people claim to hate like postmodernism, but this is a postmodern revisionist change that we've made, and yet they found a version that says what they want it to say. And so all the original translations, all the work that anybody else has done, be damned, because I want to avoid even the appearance of evil. And so I'm going to go ahead and interpret it the way that yeah, these eggheads, as Zach might say, that these eggheads might interpret it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah. So like
I like to add on to that too. I think
yeah.
a lot of people don't need to they need to realize whether it's with just the sexual issue, sexuality in general doesn't have to be homosexual or heterosexual, just sexuality in general. We're all called for a a simple means of chastity, which means we use our sexuality for what it is naturally, which is of goodness, of intimacy, of love. And when it comes to these Bible thumpers, which I don't think they say they thump the Bible, but did they really read it? They don't necessarily understand, well, what does that what does that teaching actually mean? So should we hate homosexuals because they're homosexual? No, nobody should be hating anybody. We're not called to hate. We're called to love, and we're called to help guide to Christ, and that is it. So we love one another, and we guide everybody to the body of Christ. So, and
Yeah.
we need to get to what it's all what sexuality is, what it means, what sexuality and the Bible and Christianity and with God truly means, and it's a union. I mean, with marriage, it's no different from the triune, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, three personal relationships within one, man, woman, man, woman, woman. If you're in love, you're in love. The union is with you and your partner and God. So it's a harmonious triangle of love.
Yeah, I really like that more than anything, because it's a focus on, I mean, chastity and love are synonyms in the Bible, right? Like, and it's funny because we talk about chastity as just like not having sex, but actually chastity is love, and it's not.
Yep.
It should guide that sexual conversation, like you're talking about, Zach. Like I think I really loved when we went over the Song of Solomon together as a group, because it was just so like, this is a couple who is not yet married, who is sexually active. But even she says, I don't want to awaken love before it's ready, right? Like there is a time when it's ready. That's not necessarily like, oh, we signed and got this legal document done, right? Like I think it's both a strike against both purity culture, which is just I mean, we've seen the fruits of that purity culture garbage, right? Like we've seen that problem. And then conversely, also, it's a strike against the whole like hedonist, oh, I thought she was hot, so we banged kind of thing, right? Like there is a love element when we talk about chastity and sexuality, like that should be our guiding force. And ultimately God is love, right? God should be the guiding force here. And
I get that. And I feel like it can also get a little in, not to be one of those kind of Christians, but it can feel like the idea of like purity and all that stuff can get a little demonic at times almost.
Oh, yeah.
Because
yeah.
Because I think about that South Park episode with the Jonas Brothers and how Demi Lovato was in there, and it was almost an unwritten rule that purity needed to happen with purity rings, because all four of them, not counting like the Joe Bro that was born after the fact, but like the three main Joe Bros and Demi Lovato were all Christians, and I think they still are. They wore purity rings because their churches made them, and then Disney took that in a secular direction and kind of implied that every teenager basically had to put this ring on to say they're not going to have sex. And now they're trying to force people who go to other churches and might believe other things, or even non-religious people, to do these things.
And that saying, "Oh, I'm not having sex," gave them. I mean, it was very clear in that episode, right? But like, it gives them, and I think this is true in real life, not just in South Park, but it gives them this buffer, right? Oh, I save sex for marriage, therefore I'm sexually healthy, I'm sexually moral, right? And the whole point is they're singing about deeply sexual songs, they're doing deeply sexual things, they're like encouraging this hedonistic lifestyle, they're encouraging like young kids to be promiscuous with their words, but as long as I wear this ring, I still have the high ground. Right. Like I was watching this, Joel Webben, I was watching a podcast he was on, and they were discussing post nut clarity. Like after you bang a girl and you just realize, oh, I just made myself feel feelings for this girl, like whatever. And I was just like, the fact that like this like ultra conservative Christian can have a discussion about like post-nut clarity shows me like exactly how busted purity culture is, because this same guy, like this guy's very anti-gay, very anti-trans, but post-nut clarity, banging women and then realizing that they're just like tools for you.
You meant to say no pun intended, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. did I make
you said busted right after talking about nutting.
Did I say bust? Oh no. Well,
Mm.
my bad. Yeah, it's just one of those, like, as long as you have this point of view or wear this ring or whatever, you have the veneer of it. I've definitely gotten a little bit off of this particular Bible verse. To bring it back here, I think to me, Jesus was a really good example of this, because he would not answer. The Pharisees would ask him loaded questions, right? And he didn't play the game. Jesus was always like, I don't know. Tell you what, I'll answer that question if you answer this question, right? Like, and then the Pharisees realized, well, they can't answer that question without looking like a total douchebag. So I guess I'm going to shut up, right? Like, and Jesus was really good at this. So at the same time, he's not answering their questions. But if they bring up something in general, if there's like a general thing that people are wondering about, he was specific about it, right? So like, he wouldn't, circumcision is one that gets gone after it like pretty hard in the New Testament, right? Like in its importance. And people would be like, oh, you seem to not saying that circumcision matters. And while those people don't get their question answered to their faces, it's still very clear like what side we're on, right? That this is not necessary for salvation or for being recognized as one of God's children. So like we both have the answer that like I think the hypocrites we have the answer that would stop the hypocrites from gaining any power. It's not like they don't know where we stand on the issues of loving your neighbor or circumcision or something like that, right? But when they try to catch us in a catch-22, do we try to like use their faulty logic and just be like, I can out-logic them? Or do we simply cast them aside, right? To say like, I'm not going to waste my time for somebody who clearly isn't like loving their neighbors like they should be. Like I'm trying to build something here and you're trying to tear something down and we just can't get along. So I think it's almost like, I almost see this as like a twofold thing, the difference between answering a fool and the difference between answering the argument, like, and that I'd like to see us answer the argument, sure, but not to play foolish games, right? Now, obviously, like I said, this author put these two verses side by side, knowing full well they contradict each other. It's a literary device, right? That it's trying to be like, how do I reconcile these things? And so they want us to kind of think, like what Bray pointed out earlier, they want us to think, okay, knowing that I'm both in danger when I answer a fool, as well as that I don't answer a fool, let me think about what the right thing to do is here. And I think you both hit it on the head. Zach, you said common sense. Alex, you're talking about like when you're arguing, the difference between arguing between like a carpet color versus like if somebody's in heaven, right? Like it's a super important. The carpet color does not demand an answer. The baby in heaven does demand an answer. And like that's just really important.
All I can say is if you're not sure they're in heaven, just keep praying for them because they're probably in purgatory and they will get out.
You and your purgatories.
I mean, I grew up Catholic, so I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah. I'm sympathetic just because I think, we even read a verse. Oh, this might have been last week. But talking about how, it's this week. It's the sin of, we'll get to it later. I'll save it for later. But Paul mentions a couple of people who their crime is saying that the resurrection of the dead has already happened, like the people being rescued from hell has already happened. And Paul's like, no, that is still ongoing. That is still happening. That is still like that's an ongoing process. And I think that, what we would call rescuing from hell, I think Zach, you would probably see as like purgatory, like you're in this place and people looking for salvation and needing to be saved.
Purgatory.
Some call it spirit prison. It's complicated. Go ahead, Zach.
Purgatory is just a fancy word of saying we're not all clean. We're all not clean. I look at it like this, like to set it as an example, like we're all sinners. We're not going to be perfect. Some of us are very perfect. There are those that are living their life to where they can make it into the kingdom before anybody else. But many of us are going to have to go through them purging fires and get clean. You got to clean all that filth and all that muck off of you. It's like taking a shower. So I'm fine with it. I know I'm not, I know I'm a big sinner, so I'd rather be clean before I enter heaven. So I'm fine with it.
There was a verse from Proverbs this week. I don't think I quoted it, but just because we had so much else to talk about. But it said, like, don't beware the man who says he is wise more than the man who admits he's a fool. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, for sure.
I think there's another quote, but I think it was Mark Twain though.
Yeah. What's the quote?
Oh, how's it go? Oh, don't make me.
Oh, better to keep your mouth shut.
Better to keep your mouth shut
than to open your mouth and prove them right.
Prove it, yeah. And typically, the wise man is the one that's proven he's a fool. He's not really that wise.
Yeah. Bray says, I'm pretty sure this is hell. So if we do something that reincarnates back into this realm, I mean, it's not so bad here. It's possible. That's certainly something that people can. There are theologians that have thought that before. Obviously, Bray, you're not alone in that one. I know you've done the work to know you're not alone in that one, Bray. I'm not. I don't know.
Are you implying that this is all a simulation, Bray?
Well, I will say I'm implying this is a simulation. I think it's funny. People are like, why didn't God just put us in a simulation to get all this knowledge? And I'm just kind of like, what do you think this is? Right. Like, all right, let's move on here. We've spent our first quarter of the Bible study on one verse. Good for us. I like that about us. Endure suffering along with me as a good soldier of Christ Jesus. Soldiers don't get tied up in the affairs of civilian life, for they cannot please the officer who enlisted them. And athletes cannot win the prize unless they follow the rules. And hardworking farmers should be the first to enjoy the fruit of their labor. Think about what I am saying. The Lord will help you understand all these things. That is from 2 Timothy there. And I think one of the most challenging things about most religions is that we ask people to change for the better. Like, there's a reason I have within our Discord chat, I have the what makes a cult like pinned because I want people to know that when I never want to get that trust to have people change, and it's just overriding their will, right? Like overriding their minds. I don't care for that. But we do want to ask people to change, right? Like when we get here, we want people to become better for their own sakes, right? For their own, because we love them, right? Like we want them to feel better. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah.
So I just thought about it, but like you kind of hit the nail on the head unintentionally. I don't know if you've heard of an organization called Young Life.
It sounds really familiar.
It's a large Christian organization that they touch colleges sometimes, but mostly it's high school.
Okay.
And yes. I know some people personally who have quit because like the biggest knock against them is that they seemingly hate gay people to the point where they basically make these people feel like they're not worthy of God's love. But then there's other instances. But a huge thing about them is they can come off as a cult. They almost want to override the teacher in the classroom or the parents in the home when it comes to dealing with these children. And I've known people to quit Young Life as like adult leaders because they don't want to feel like they're treating this kid like they're a property and no longer people that need to be seeing their teachers or parents as like the important figures in their life instead of them.
Yeah.
In order to manipulate them into changing, they also, as part of that, tell them you can't have secular friends. You have wrong Christian friends if you have Christian friends already, so on and so forth.
Yeah, we want to offer somebody a community, but I think Paul says it best when he's like, he does ask like people to quit their jobs for the government, right? Like for Rome, like soldiers for Rome quit their positions. But Paul actually says, I don't want, he actually only makes one exception, and it's slaves seeking freedom from their captors. But other than that, he's like, I don't want to change people's station in life. Like if you're gardener, keep gardening, right? Like if you're a
Mhm.
painter, keep painting. If you're a laborer, keep laboring. I am not trying to change your calling in life. What Christianity is meant to do, it's asking you to change, but it's also trying to make what you're already called to do and just make it better, right? Like be a good
Exactly.
laborer in the field. We don't want to change you from being a vineyard owner to being like a slave, or to being like the king of king of Zimbabwe. But what we want you to do is be a vineyard owner, keep doing that, but be a good vineyard owner, be a better vineyard owner, be the best vineyard owner that you can be. What up, Cy? How you going? Scientific Libertarians here. How's it going, my man? I've had some good discussions with Cy just today as well. Yeah. Zach, any thoughts about this passage?
I mean, you kind of hit it. You actually did hit it. I mean, we're called to change, but change in a good way. So you can change and you can still be yourself. But at the same time, you're going beyond yourself. So you kind of hit it. I don't really have anything else to say about it.
Have I been muted this whole time? Have you guys been letting me go despite being muted? Yeah.
I didn't know if it was like a connection error or
I
something.
I was actually checking mine. I didn't know if my speakers got switched, so I
I
didn't
left
even realize.
myself. Sorry, I had background noise. I muted it. And I forgot to unmute it. That is my
Oh,
bad. Completely my bad. I love this passage. Did you guys even hear me read the verse? Suck. This kind of talk spreads like a cancer, as in the case of Hymenaeus and Philetus. They have left the path of truth, claiming that the resurrection of the dead has already occurred. In this way, they have turned some people away from the faith. And Alex, this really strikes me as poignant to what you talked about earlier. Is this baby going to heaven? And that last part there, does it turn some people away from the faith because we think that there's this all-loving God that has condemned a baby to hell? Yes, of course. Like a normal person will leave your faith if you teach that in your faith babies go to hell. That is a normal, good thing for them to do, right? Like to distance themselves from you. I want to welcome everybody. Thank you so much. Sorry about my audio there, but I'm just seeing the numbers are popping off. I really appreciate whoever decided to click on the channel and visit us. I appreciate it. And so what these guys are doing is specifically claiming that there is no resurrection for these people. And whether you call it hell, purgatory, spirit prison, whatever it is, wherever your spirit went beyond, the idea that they won't get saved anymore, that it was just a one-time thing. So to describe the one-time thing, it's an event called the harrowing of hell. We haven't got to, Peter actually does the most detailing on this, but it is, I think, in the Gospel of Matthew. Basically, Jesus descends into hell and witnesses to the people who were there and releases Satan's hold on them into prison. And this is when we talk about Jesus having the power over death, we actually get it from there. It's not the power over physical death, although Jesus has that too, to be clear, but we still physically die. What he's talking about is eternal death, that Jesus no longer allows us to suffer an eternal death. What people are arguing, what in this case Philetus and Hymenaeus are arguing specifically, is that was a one-time event, and now going forward, if you go to hell, you're stuck there forever. And Paul is like, no, that's not right. If you are arguing whether it be a baby or even just like a wayward person that went to hell and just saying, yeah, there's no salvation for them anymore, and that's just something that our super loving, super awesome God who created us, who knew the choices we were going to make, did, that's messed up. And this will turn people away from the faith, and it absolutely should. Any thoughts you guys have about this one?
Just a simple thought I had is like even like Paul, I think almost addressed the situation because he felt like he shouldn't have to, but it's like they're clinging to like almost a non-existent idea of God. Like they're just saying, "Oh, God made an exception this one time," but it's like hardly ever in the Bible did God make exceptions for something and then go, "It's never going to happen again." Like it just like was intentional about this. Like he showed someone something that could happen, and the person's interpreting it as God just giving me the chance to see something happen once. It's never going to happen again. When God was
Mhm.
clearly trying to, in the moment, show an example almost of something that could happen as part of the salvation, and they're interpreting it as God showing us something once that He'll never let happen again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zach, your thoughts?
I mean, when you think about, say, the concept of hell, I mean, what happens is we've all been given the grace. God has granted us a gift, and I mean, nobody here should be saying a baby that dies very young is going to hell. I don't believe that. I don't think most people are going to believe that, and I don't think God's going to allow it, because the baby hasn't lived a life to reach the age of reason to actually start actually living and making choices, and then either diverting away from God and goodness, righteousness, love, or to make that choice to live a good life, a righteous life in Christ. So, I mean, people make a choice in this life, so there are going to be consequences eternally, but that comes at the judgment everlasting, where we're never going to know until the time comes, and we need to, I don't know, we need to kind of tread lightly on the idea and just tell people, hey, just teach people it's better to live a righteous life within Christ rather than to make the choice to fall into sin. I don't know. I mean, I don't care. You can call it just sin in general. You can call it mortal sin, whatever. It's better to teach to go on a righteous path rather than fall in line to your own selfish desires. And that's what we need to teach rather than fire and brimstone, and even the baby needs to be saved. So, I mean, so that's where I'm at.
I think the afterlife receives so little focus in the scriptures,
Mm-hmm.
but it's such a big focus for us, and I totally get why. When you look at the apostles, like 3 times they approached Jesus, like, "How do we get saved?" And Jesus like gives them some flippant answer, right? Like, forgive
Yeah.
others, don't judge people, don't judge your, lest you be judged, don't forgive people, forgiving people, and as many times as you wish to be forgiven, so then you'll be forgiven. Love your neighbor as yourself, love God, right? Like, it's just general stuff. Whereas these guys, like, you see the fear in the apostles, and I think most of us relate to that. We want to be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, can you give me a specific thing, right? Like, what, like, can you be more particular? Because I just want to make sure if there's an eternal life that we get to that afterlife. But the answer to that just seems to be more focused in being grounded in this world. I like in
Mm-hmm.
Acts when the apostles are all looking up and the angel's like, "Why are you still looking up? He's gone. Jesus is now around you. He is amongst you in the least of these." That
Mm-hmm.
the answer isn't looking up, it's looking around. How many of us, when we want to focus on eternal life, we try to focus, we look up as opposed to looking
Mm-hmm.
around, and it's one of our biggest mistakes to kind of, like, God made this world, right? Like, this world was a plan for us, so if there is a plan to get to eternal life, this world was instrumental in that process, so we can't skip it, right? Like, focus on the world, focus on what you can focus on, and the rest should take care of itself. Bray says it's documented in one of the gospels that the saints resurrected to give witness after the crucifixion. I think that may even be multiple gospels, but I believe that happens in Matthew at the very least, Bray. But why would it be a one-time thing? Also, why are we so obsessed with taking our bodies into the spiritual realm? Yeah, the soul is both the spirit and the body, and I do believe in the resurrection of both. But yeah, like if we're in a spiritual realm and we know the dead have not taken their bodies with them, right? Yet their bodies are here. Like we have remains, right? Like there are dead bodies. And so we know that they are in a spiritual realm right now. And so, yeah, this obsession with, oh, they must have taken their bodies and spirits with them and now they're burning or whatever. It's like, this is a weird obsession that we know isn't factually happening because their bodies are present with us currently. Whatever spiritual realm they are in, whether we call it paradise, prison, purgatory, whatever it is a place for wandering spirits, but it's not a final destination. And it's something that we're still awaiting that day. Like I said, we don't want to commit the mistake that these two made here, talking about how, oh, that's already happened. That salvation is still possible on the other side of the realm. I mean, what's the famous verse? Neither life nor death, like not even the depths of hell can separate us from the love of God. And that's functionally true. That God will and can still reach us there. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this real quick because Jeremiah had some interesting stuff this week, but I kind of saw a lot of Jeremiah as more like broader subjects. And so there wasn't like one verse that necessarily captured everything. Jeremiah commands when Babylon is about to invade, there are people who are like, well, let's just go to Egypt. Let's just change empires, right? Like we're part of this Israel empire. Let's just go to Egypt and be a part of that empire. And Jeremiah is like, dude, no, don't do that. Like you're better off just living in tents, being exiles out in the field. And I think it's interesting because we don't think about it this way, but there is a certain safety. This is very Taoist, so you'll have to forgive me for a moment for being Taoist. It is, it's influential to me. I won't say, like, it obviously doesn't override my Christianity, but it is like one of those things that I find that is very spiritually connected to God. And this idea that when we forsake politics and we forsake empires and we forsake physical wealth and we forsake weapons, that we aren't seen as a threat and therefore we aren't attacked. And I do think there's something to that, right? To say that like we're not going to go in and drop a nuke on somebody who is just offering a hug and nothing else, right? That if we kind of forsake this choosing sides in a military conflict and we kind of Switzerland out on it, that we might Switzerland style be avoided, right? Like there is something to that. And I don't want to say it's all the time, and I do think we are at times called to choose a right side, right? Like to be sure. And I think at times we are choose to survive and do difficult things that it takes to survive. Look at the story of Esther that we've already read, the moral sacrifices that she had to make in order to protect her people, right? So I understand that sometimes you make a calculated sacrifice. And a decision like that. But I think that there is wisdom, if it's possible, to say, I'm going to withdraw from this fight and therefore avoid getting butchered in it. And Jeremiah is proven to be correct. There's actually a specific battle that's mentioned within the Bible, but it is a real battle, the Battle of Carchemish. And in this battle, the Egypt gets slaughtered by Babylon. They get beaten way back. And because the refugees who escaped to Egypt were still on that side, the refugees who did run to Egypt for help are slaughtered along with the Egyptians who attempt to fight on that side. So Jeremiah, outside of just being right, I think there's a philosophical benefit here as well to saying I am better off living on my own. I know won't be as strong or militantly or as like menacing, but I think there's something to be said for people just leaving a farmer alone because like the farmer's just trying to live, we're just trying to make do. Any thoughts you guys have about that?
I do have. I'm going to slide this one in. You said Taoism, right?
Yeah. Are you big on the Tao?
This is going to be my next book that I'm hopefully going to get to soon, but it's from, awesome. It's not by him, but it's based on, Thomas Merton was a Trappist monk out of Gethsemane, just down south of Bardstown is where the Abbey of Gethsemane is. But he was very adamant in exploring a lot of the Eastern cultures and religions and traditions and applying it with Western Christianity. And I think there's a lot that we can take from each other, and that's what he foresaw too. So he hung out with uh, lot of those from the East, and this is basically a book about him and his ideas on the Tao and much more. I guess I don't know. I haven't read it, so I kind of want so, but it should be interesting. Go deeper into what Taoism and Christianity. I say Catholicism really, since I'm a Catholic,
Yeah.
but Christianity and Taoism definitely could intertwine with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Merton big on like social justice, pacifism, like just stuff that I really tend to like. The Trappists are Catholics, right?
The
They're
Trappists are Benedictine monks, yes.
okay, cool.
Many of them are Benedictine. I don't
Yeah.
think all of them are, but I think most of them are Benedictine.
No, he's great. I wish there was more. I wish there was more like that. When I studied like general studies theology, I just got so much out of. I don't think it's an accident that people who think about spiritual things come to the golden rule every time. That every faith that we have gets to that conclusion. Because I think when you are really in tune with your spirit, that's just something that it's an unavoidable spiritual truth, and it's funny because it's definitely not a mortal truth. Like subverting your enemies definitely gives you like a mortal advantage. But everybody who focus on spirituality comes to the conclusion that we should forsake that, right? That we should forsake oppression. Alex, your thoughts?
So the golden, you caught my. I got a little distracted for a second there, but you did catch my attention with the golden rule thing. I remember when I visited a Hindu temple, which I don't believe in Hinduism because it kind of just it gives me like old Catholic church vibes where you got to pay every step you walk. Just at least how that one was set up. But they had a version of the golden rules, and they had I forget exactly which verse, but they had a verse from the book of Matthew up on that wall alongside a bunch of quotes from like Hinduism and Buddhism.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that I'm glad that you are open to that, because there's a lot of people who I think we get so wrapped up in Christianity that we see something from another faith and just I think we almost treat it like worshiping like the Queen of Heaven, right? Like they do in Jeremiah, or like some idol or Baal or something like that. It's like, not all. If we know that all good gifts come from God, and we see a good teaching in a different faith, then either Satan gave them a good teaching, which is impossible, and therefore we have to forsake our Christianity. We have to recognize that God helped them, right? Like God was a part of them, even when they we could say they don't have the whole truth, or they something like that. But yeah. Bray says also, Augustine, you should check out Living Christ, Living Buddha. It's a great book about reconciling Christianity and Buddhism. I have read that book, and I will also second that recommendation. It's really good. Hinduism has a sophisticated caste system built into the faith, and it's problematic. Yeah, so there is a lot of there are including Christianity, by the way, problematic sections in many religious texts. And I won't say like all religion's the same and it's all good, right? Like I don't even I recognize some verses in the Bible we talked about last week, Zach, that just got added, right? Like some jagoff decided to add something that he wanted to get added to the Bible that is not good, and unfortunately did it early enough on that we feel bad deleting his verses that they added from the Bible, and so it's like, what do we do then, right? Like do we keep it in there and use the Bible as like a warning tool that like people will also try to subvert our faith, or do we delete it and try to say this never happened, this was a mistake, we're really sorry? And I understand both points of view. I don't while I do believe that, what's the best way to say this? I think that, to me, God knows that people are generally led by conscience, and or I guess we are fallen people, but we can be led by conscience of any faith. And he doesn't care so much about the details, right? Like, I think there are a lot of Christians currently talking about post-nut clarity and worshiping Trump and nationalism that are going to struggle on the other side of the veil. And yet I think that there are Muslims who believe in peace, who believe in love, who believe in God and might have a different name for him, but like are really good to their neighbors. And we can say, oh, well, the Christians are all betraying their, like, the national, they're just betraying their actual beliefs, or the Muslims that guy's betraying he's supposed to be a bad person, but he's chosen to be a good person regardless. But I think this fails to discount that this Muslim person attributes their goodness to their faith. Like, when they get close to Allah, when they listen to the imam, that they feel this peace and love and they want to share that with other people, right? Like, that their faith is not a hindrance, but actually a contributor. I think the same thing about Hinduism. Now, obviously, if you're hardcore about the caste system, that's a problem, right? And I would say the same thing about Christians that are addicted to Mosaic law, right? Like, it's built into it, but we still should not get hung up on it, you know? And so I do want to be, I want to be like really respectful of that, because I think it's a problem when we try to destroy another faith versus what Paul does when he sees a temple to the unknown God and says, can I tell you about that unknown God a little bit? As opposed to just being like, unknown God, you guys are idiots and worshiping mysteries and spirits and stupid things. Like, stop being dumb. And Paul's not against saying stop being dumb on some occasions, but usually he saves that for fellow Christians as opposed to people who just kind of don't know, or people who are out there looking in the world or asking genuine questions. I know that wasn't really Bible verse, but do you guys have any thoughts about that?
I mean, for those who are seeking, if they seek Christ without necessarily knowing who Christ is, I mean, there's only good things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, seeking the person of Christ is usually usually a positive. Okay, I've got another good one here from 2 Timothy. You should know that, I want to be clear. I know it sounds like, sorry, Bray. You are correct that just like people who adhere to Mosaic law, like the Hindus that like go nutty on the caste system, are indeed practicing something that's a problem. And I don't want like my peace-loving ways to stop me from recognizing when another faith has a really bad practice. You mentioned here the Muslims in Burma are from the most peaceful sect in Islam today, and they're being ethnically cleansed by militant Buddhists. Yeah, it's we live in this weird world where most Buddhists would be like, militant Buddhist, that's not a thing. And some people would be like, peaceful Muslim, that's not a thing. But here we have, like, this just goes to show like how humanity hijacks faiths. And actually, let's go ahead and talk about this next verse in 2 Timothy, because I think this talks a lot about it. And it's talking about the last days, where we could kind of say our current days. You should know this, Timothy, that in the last days there will be very difficult times, for people will love only themselves and their money. They'll be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents, and ungrateful. They will consider nothing sacred. They will be unloving and unforgiving. They will slander others and have no self-control. They will be cruel and hate what is good. They will betray their friends, be reckless, be puffed up with pride, and love pleasure rather than God. They will act religious, but they will reject that power that could make them godly. Stay away from people like that. They are the kind who work their way into people's homes and win the confidence of vulnerable women who are burdened with the guilt of sin and controlled by various desires. Such women are forever following new teachings, but they are never able to understand the truth. These teachers oppose the truth just as Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses. They have depraved minds and a counterfeit faith. But they won't get away with this for long. Someday, everyone will recognize what the fools they are, just as with Jannes and Jambres. I want to say Jannes and Jambres, these are the names of the magicians in Pharaoh's court. So these are the people who did the magic trick to make the snake appear. And I love this, that using them as examples, because what they're doing is they're faking a magic trick, but they know they're faking it, right? They're magicians. They know the magic trick. And so they're aware they're charlatans. But, you know, they're like, oh, look, I can produce a snake as well. And this is what allows them to exist among other people who actually are worshiping a real God, right? They do the same thing, or say they believe the same thing, but they're not doing it right? Like they're doing something They are counterfeit, and you can tell by all these other things: their love of money, them being boastful and proud, their ingratitude, they're unloving, they're unforgiving, slander others, lack of self-control. These are this is kind of actually a good breakdown here of like the anti-fruits of the spirit, like, you know, whereas the fruits of the spirit are gentleness and self-control and love, and for, you know, these are kind of the opposites of them: cruel and hating what is good. I want to address this just real quick because I don't think it's actually, this gets interpreted a lot to say, oh, women are forever following new teachings. So this is not, while Paul has some sexist verses, this is not one of them, because he's talking about women who are burdened with the guilt of sin, right? So this is actually women who are victims. We have put the guilt of sin upon them when they don't deserve it, and therefore they're searching for something else, right? And they're not able to understand the truth because we put a guilt of sin on them that they don't actually have, just by being women, that they're somehow sinful, right? Like that's not actually true, or that they're lesser than men, right? That the guilt of sin, when we talk about the burden of guilt and sin, this is actually, as Paul's generation would understand it, would be referring to Eve, right? Like the woman sinned first, and so therefore you women are responsible for all these evil things, right? And so they're searching, you know, forever for new teachings because they feel so miserable, like with this guilt that they don't deserve to feel miserable for. So I just want to throw that out there because sometimes this verse gets misused to be like, oh yeah, women controlled by various desires and never able to understand the truth. Ha ha ha, stupid women. It's saying the opposite of that, basically. They're doing that because we have placed an unnecessary guilt upon them, and that it's important for us to remove this burden, this guilt of sin, or share that burden, as we probably should do, since Adam and Eve both partook of that, right? We are supposed to share that burden with them. We've chosen to share that burden with them. We are all sinners. We have all fallen, and women are not to be viewed as less than men. But anyway, that's the sexist part of that I wanted to address. But I think the whole thing here is really good because I think we see a lot of this today. We have a lot of people who are able to simulate Christianity really well. We have a lot of Johnnies and John Brace who are able to say, oh, look, I can say the Christian thing. I can sing the Christian hymn. I can do the Christian thing. But their demeanor, their conduct, I mean, this describes, I mean, I think you both would probably agree, this conduct that gets described in this first paragraph here is basically every major Christian leader that we have in the US right now, right? Like every, one that I would say is mainstream until you get like deeply into theology. Now, Zach and Alex, I know you guys both understand theology, so you guys can probably both think of prominent examples that are leaders that aren't like this, right? But that's because you're investing in the theology. When we think of like the mainstream Christians, like they are basically the opposite of everything they're supposed to be. And that's just a sign that God was right, that the religious people in the final days are gonna or the mainstream religious leaders are going to be awful. Zach, Alex, your thoughts? If you have any. Or if not, yeah. Nothing? Alex, you got anything? You feel good?
Not anything really, but I do. But as always, I do agree with that idea that they can be awful. I mean, on the one hand, it makes for good TikToks, you know, for people to like do their Christian comedy TikToks to make fun of like those people. But at the
Those
same
are funny.
time, it's hard not to feel like you're gonna see that because I mean, I think like easily a good example is Joel Osteen. The least bad thing you hear about him is they found a envelope full of money hiding behind a toilet. That's like the most positive thing I've heard about that guy in 5 years.
Who is this?
Joel Osteen, a
So,
plumber found a check with like
Okay.
$10,000 or something in it in the back of a urinal, and that's the most positive news I've heard about that guy. Really seen about him.
Yeah. I think
so wait,
go ahead.
he left a bag of money behind a urinal, or
I don't know, it was an envelope, but they they gave a little bit of money or something to thank the plumber for finding that, but it was.
oh,
But I don't know what that money was for. Like it was a weird thing, and like I kind of got
that
brushed
is
off by Olstein and Co.
I had to look it up. A plumber discovered approximately 500 envelopes filled with cash and checks hidden in a wall behind a toilet at Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas. The plumber immediately turned in all the items, and police later linked the recovered checks to a March 2014 theft of approximately $600,000 from the church. Interesting. And I'm sure, okay, the plumber did not receive $25,000 from Crime Stoppers because the statute of limitations had expired. Boy, that's government at its finest. The plumber later received a $20,000 reward from an anonymous source through the church. So thanks for giving us back $600,000. Here's $20,000. Honestly, good on the plumber. Yeah. It says more about
plumber. Great for the plumber.
Yeah. Yay for the plumber. I don't care so much about Osteen, but yeah, that's real. Yeah, Osteen's kind of a prototype. I think it's interesting that Paul has talked about elders and deacons and how he expects them to behave. And in both occasions, he mentions that they need to be people of good reputation in the community and both in and out of the church. And I think it's funny, people like Osteen, unless you're in the church, has just a radioactively bad reputation. Yeah. Unless you're a hardcore Christian. Yeah. Go ahead, Alex.
You touched on something that has been on my mind a little bit recently, but with the issue with the snap stuff, even you could touch on the ICE topic if you really wanted to and just talk about what's going on there. But I don't know, there are some churches sometimes I walk into them, or even sometimes even my own church can fail at this, but being in the community, it's I feel like a church sometimes can turn into its own bubble and forget that there's a larger community out there. They forget their zip codes. They forget that there are people without ones. There are businesses, there are sidewalks, trees. They almost feel like their own building is the only thing that really matters sometimes, and they lose sight of the community they're supposed to serve. And sometimes that's why a church shrinks so little to such a small size, because they don't almost foster the local community and find ways to help them.
Yeah, they want to harvest what they have versus gather more, right? They just want to. Yeah, they're not really doing a lot of outreach, and they almost becomes a focal point for them, how much they're hated on the outside. It becomes almost a bragging point, as opposed to being boy, trying to focus on, hey, I've really tried my best to make people on the outside know that they feel loved and wonderful. And I think that, to me, is one of the things. I don't know, I'm getting choked up talking about this, but teary-eyed, but Paul mentions in many of the epistles how that's how Christians are supposed to be known, right? That Christians are supposed to be, when another person thinks of a Christian, they think of somebody who helped them, right? Somebody who fed them when they were hungry. And Paul refers to it as the clothing, right? That's the clothing we should wear that designates you a Christian, is that type of activity, is that type of outreach for the community. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I love that you're touching on this too, because I've been seeing it recently in my day-to-day life. I've seen a lot of stuff posted on social media about my neck of the woods in Ohio, and the SNAP benefits ending possibly at the federal level, and there being only certain extensions, certain possibilities of things happening, and none of it really impacts illegal immigrants or anything. It's mostly impacting low-income U.S. citizens, and I've been witnessing it. My best friend at church, she's been posting a lot of stuff on social media, reaching out to people, using her job at the food bank that encompasses 2 different counties, to just kind of tell people about the resources and trying to connect. She threw herself into the comment section of a post that had hundreds of comments from a newspaper about SNAP benefits being lost, and told the people there to just message her and contact her if they had resources themselves or needed some, so that she could share them with people.
Wow.
And it's been an impressive thing to see, because now it's they want to give our church the chance to have a ministry of its own where we do some sort of food related stuff, because there's a giant food desert in the northern, kind of in certain parts.
I'm gonna use a sports term, but how much we turn the ball over when we make welfare out to be the bad guy, right? Like, and we aren't doing the welfare ourselves, right? Like when we say welfare is good, we can do it better, but instead we say, oh, these, well, I mean, we'll call them welfare whores, right? Like, well, like completely fumbling the ball, giving the high ground to the other team by being like, oh yeah, they do welfare. Over here we're only hard work and isolationism, and everybody lives on an island. And right on cue, Aaron Goss, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I'm sorry I'm late.
You're okay. Appreciate it, man. You were doing some
Hey,
Aaron was doing some family stuff, and family stuff is absolutely what you should be doing. Let's see here. Bray says, I'll never forget. Oh, this is about the women comment. I'll never forget the rabbinical argument about women being allowed to drink wine, because one rabbi argued that a woman who drinks 3 glasses of wine will shag donkeys in the street. Yeah, thankfully Rabbi Booney saved the day on that one. I agree with you there, Bray. I think it just goes to show how much of an incel you are when you like think women getting drunk will just like bang donkeys or horses. Like that's incel stuff. You can tell that Paul is a volcel, because while he lacks some of the toxicity of the incel stuff, sometimes he says stuff about women where I'm just like, oh, I can tell you don't really know. Bray would also like to wish you a heartfelt welcome, Aaron. You didn't get an A, fam, though, so
Well, that's because I'm slacking.
you might be having a fallout with Bray pretty soon here.
I mean, Aaron's at least got 2 A's, so he's like really he's 1 A away from it being able to say A.
Yeah. Aaron. Oh wow, that fits pretty well. Look at that.
See, when you should misinterpret the Bible to be Italian, and then find the character name Aaron and go Aaron instead.
If I take the first 2 letters of my name and the last 2 letters of Bray, I get A.
Oh, you two together are the
Yeah.
A.
There you go.
A. Wow, that's awesome. Let's see here. Zach's got an A in his A name and in his Catholic name. Alex has an A. My real name's got an A. Maybe we're all just all A pluses. I'm going to go ahead and stop having pretend profound thoughts and leave it to the Bible who has actually profound thoughts. I referenced this verse earlier. I was like, was that this week? I don't think I quoted it. I'm going to go ahead and quote it anyway, just because we talked about it. There's more hope for fools than for people who think they are wise. Yes. I don't have much to add here other than I believe that is true. Any thoughts from the three?
Yep. Very true.
Cool. All right. Let's see. I got another one from Jeremiah, but I'm just going to kind of generally reference it because he's got like a whole chapter about like how hosed Moab is and how hosed Edom is. And I just wanted to add a little, just from my theological background, just a little knowledge about these. Why are Moab and Edom so hosed? Why do people dislike them so much? Aaron was around me, and we will end up reading Obadiah later, the shortest book of the Bible. And it is about Moab and how hosed they are and why they are hosed. And so the answer to this is fairly simple. When the Babylonians invade, there was a defense contract out between Moab and Israel. Now, Moab was mostly like either Israelites or Israel adjacent. They were, while they recognized themselves as a different ethnicity, they considered themselves religiously among the same accord. So maybe that's important to this context. But what they had was a defense contract. Moab was essentially Sparta, is probably the best way to think about it. That were a military group, ethnically military. And what was happening is Israel spent the last several hundred years giving them food and free supplies and everything like that. And Moab's job was, if we ever get attacked, that you guys come and help us. And then the Babylonians come, and what does Moab do? They hide up in the hills and say, boy, that sucks for you. Now, it doesn't work for them. They end up getting killed by a combination of the Babylonians and what historians know as the Sea People. And that sounds like a weird South Park reference, but literally historians just call them the Sea People. They are nomadic. And Moab gets destroyed. And so they are destroyed eventually anyway. But their sin and the reason that God allows them to be destroyed is because they renege on this promise, this defensive promise. They took all these supplies. They happily were sitting on all this stuff that they got. And yet, when the time came to make good on it, when the going got tough, look, nobody wants to fight a war, right? Like, of course, but you agreed, right? Like you said, I will do this and I will take your resources in the meantime. And you took their resources that if they knew you weren't going to defend them, they would have absolutely given to their own army, right? So you really left them high and dry on this one. And that's a really negative thing. Obviously, there's modern historical implications. Aaron, I think when we talked about this last time, we talked about the obvious kind of Ukraine tie here, that we promised to defend them if they ever got attacked, if they give up their nukes. So essentially, these people give up their resources, right? Like to I guess they give them up to Russia, but
the Budapest Memorandum.
Yeah, the Budapest Memorandum, that they say we'll give up our ability to defend ourselves. And in exchange, we expect you, Russia and the United States, that if we ever get attacked, to stand up for us. And we haven't always been very good partners about that. We've been allowing parts of their country to be taken. And we aren't even the worst in this, because the other half that was going to defend them if they ever got attacked is doing the attacking. And then the other half was that. So there's maybe something to be said about outsourcing your defense. Obviously, Ukraine, in hindsight, should have held on to their nukes and not counted on the United States or Russia. But I think also, but I want to be clear that the sin is not on the person who trusted; it's on the person who violated the trust. And in this case, it's Moab. Aaron, I don't mean to speak for you, but any thoughts about this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I have the same thoughts I had last time, in the sense that, like that's a pretty apt comparison. When you talked about outsourcing your defense, it's a right-wing talking point, but it's one that I actually agree with. In regards to Europe outsourcing its defense to us, like Europe has not been pulling their fair share in regards to defending themselves, and as a result, we've been taking up the slack. And it's a Trump point that I absolutely agree with. Europe needs to have a decent sized military to protect against things like Ukraine as well, and it doesn't need to just all fall on the U.S. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Zach, Alex,
you want thoughts?
Yeah.
I don't know how, well, when it comes to that sort of situation, I don't know how Europe could at this point, because they've mismanaged their entire economies and their financial sector and every sort of political department, government and non-government. I mean, they wouldn't be able to at this point. But you're exactly right, though, and surprisingly, Trump is exactly right too. They don't hold their fair share, and we are the number one. We are numero uno on that Security Council of the UN. We're number one within NATO, and it goes through us, and we're the ones that are splitting the bill for all of it. So, and what are we getting in return? Well, we're guarding a bunch of countries halfway across the great Atlantic Ocean. So, what's the point? So, yeah, they should be defending themselves, and they're going to reap. They're already reaping what they've sown, just like Moab.
Alex,
go ahead.
You're good. If he's got thoughts,
he
might have. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, not really, but it kind of seems ironic with the name Moab, because when I first heard of it, it wasn't in the Bible. It was in tons of video games and stuff. It's just like a giant bomb that blows up. And it seems kind of interesting that they, maybe some part of me thinks maybe they got that idea originally, passed it down. Basically, it originated from the Bible, because it's like, you think of military, you see the Moab, you think of the Bible. Moab basically kind of just, in some sense, blew up. Like, God punished them for not committing that proper defense. Like,
I mean, it's possible, but
Maybe.
it's actually an acronym. It's the mother of all bombs.
yeah, that's just
Moab.
Oh, is that what it stands for?
Yeah.
I only know of it from like balloons. Like,
yes. That's what I was
okay.
thinking of. The balloons tower defense is like it seemed to are just a weird connection. Like,
Isn't it in Fallout too? Is it in Fallout?
Maybe.
I
Anyway.
believe so. Yes.
But
I'm
yeah, no,
looking that up,
something
too.
else that I was thinking about in regards to the topic, and I forgot to bring it up,
Yeah.
in regards to Europe defending itself,
Yeah.
is it serves. I mean, it is a Trumpian narrative. It's not being said on either the left or the liberals. It's exclusively being said on the right, and it's something that I actually agree with. Which one of the few things that I agree with the Trump crowd on. But
let's take it and run with it, man. Let's
yeah.
reach out to some conservatives, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
when they're right, yeah.
But something else that needs to be said is I think it's good for Europe to be able to provide its own defense, because I don't think that it's healthy for us to live in a single polar or multipolar with just like 2 or 3 different countries world. I think that it's a healthy thing for there to be, 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 powers that have at least a decent shot of being equivalent to one another. Or, like a situation where Spain, France, and England get together and they have the collective power of the United States or something like that, as opposed to just the United States and then 20 equivalent countries down the line, and you have like Russia and China and everything like that, or India. I think it's healthy for there to be some multipolarity.
What if?
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
What if we have 10,000 Liechtensteins?
Sure, that would be even better.
Exactly.
Ultimately,
I agree.
Ultimately, the smallest minority is the individual, right? Like, let's break this down until they're all individuals. But
I was going to say, let's 7 billion Liechtensteins.
Yeah, 7 billion Liechtensteins. I am Liechtenstein. We are Liechtenstein. No, I like what you guys are saying here. There's I think what the funny thing is, it's provided a perverse incentive for both sides. Zach, you mentioned economically, they've just been able to write this off entirely, right? Like, they just be like, oh, that's taken care of for us. We don't have to worry about it. We pay a couple of dues and, that's that. Not nearly what we should have to pay for it. And then I think also making it so that they don't have to deal with the grim realities and evils of it, right? Like, because you just say, our defense is taken care of. If they are blowing up innocent people at our behest, that's them, right? That's just my bodyguard, right? Like, my bodyguard's out there just murdering ravenous fans. I'm not the one responsible for any of it. And then the perverse incentive on our side is like, like, we're paying extra money, which is bad, obviously, for our taxpayers, but we do this because it allows us to butt into where we should not be, right? Like, we are doing it because we're doing basically what Britain did. Oh, allow us to help you with the French and Indians over here. Hey, we're just gonna. Oh, did we leave some troops over there? We'll get back to you on that one, right? Like, Britain actually helped America, the Americans, for free, right? Like, initially, and then just left the troops there because they're like, oh, it's our place now. So we're familiar with what America's doing because we've had it done to us. We are helping these other countries, and in doing so, pushing our own agenda over the entire world, in places where it should not be, and benefiting ourselves and lining our pockets. And it's one of the reasons that it feels very difficult to even buy a candy bar or a diamond ring or even buy an iPhone, because you just know that American imperialism has had a lot to do with bringing you that thing, which should be the market would have brought it to you without the blood, but unfortunately we got the blood, and it sucks. Moab. I guess we focused on the other side of this equation. And to be clear, Jeremiah actually was really good about bringing that up beforehand, that people were counting on military contracts as opposed to being good people to protect themselves. And this is the inevitable end when you count on military aggression to save you, that eventually military aggression will be used against you. And this is what's going to happen to them. Still, I do want to recognize that if you agree to defend somebody and those invaders come in to kill those people, you better defend those people. That's not right. To me, I would give Ukraine back. I know Aaron and I disagree about this one, but I would give Ukraine back their nukes and be like, sorry, we're not going to, we're unable to hold our end of the contract up. But one way or another, we do have to see to their defense. Otherwise, we will receive the curse that Moab was cursed with. Yeah. Any other thoughts? The other one, I guess, was Edom. And Edom, I guess, much the same subject. Edom was the intellectual capital, while Moab was kind of the military capital of Israel. Edom was the intellectual capital. And ultimately, they were just like, oh, we're so smart, we can outmaneuver any of this intellectually. And they ended up being like the philosophers I talked about, like the philosophers of Ancapistan. Like, cool, in an ideal society, everything works well. How does that help us right now? And these people had no ideas for what to do against the Babylonians. Right? Like they were a bunch of, well, in an ideal society kind of people, and then held themselves as like pride. And it's like, hey, we don't live in an ideal society. We don't live in a real, in an ideal world. You know, like you need, your knowledge doesn't help me if it's not practical, right? Like give me something I can do with this knowledge. And so Edom held itself aloof as being like all smart and ultimately just suffered with everybody else. You know, the elitists weren't able to survive. So you have a whole city full of elitists that is, Jeremiah correctly says that they are prideful, but their pride is just in complete vain. They're proud of knowing more, but what they know doesn't actually make them any better than anybody else. Any thoughts about Edom or elitism?
Memorizing all of Nintendo Power Magazine or something like that, and like, okay, how's that help?
Yeah.
Like, okay, grats, you have a lot of knowledge about some esoteric bullshit.
I know all the Game Genie codes for games that I don't own. Yeah, good. That had an encore with Greece and Rome. Yes, that's another good example of it. Especially with, boy, yeah. The more I think about it, Bray, yes, especially with Greece and Rome.
Hey, without Greece, though, Rome doesn't last for nearly another 1,000 years. Viva Rome.
Probably true. Another proverb for us all here. The lazy person claims there's a lion on the road. Yes, I'm sure there's a lion out there. I like this one. Kind of funny. That there's always an excuse to not work, right? Like there's lions out there. Yes, you live in a world, there's lions, right? And I did want to establish, I mentioned, because we kind of had a bit of a discussion earlier about like what like laziness is, Zach, because I know people's lack of work ethic frustrates you, right? You mentioned this a couple of times, and it should. I always think of the song Fast Car about this woman who had two lazy people in her life that just destroyed it twice. You know, that her father was lazy, and the guy that she ran away with ended up being no different, you know, and just being like, you keep good people running forever when you refuse to just lift a finger and work for them. I have a tough time dunking on laziness too hard because we have a lot of systems that keep people poor. The fact that do you guys remember, like, it was like 2 or 3 years ago when people found out you could basically buy a 2-story home from Home Depot for $20,000? And it had like there was like a pool and stuff in it. Like you could buy a full home for $20,000. The only issue is you had to have the land to put it on. And people then became aware that we are essentially paying 10 times what we should be paying, right? Like we are, and while land is a scarce resource, I believe we can fit the entire population of the world inside. Is it Jacksonville, like Florida, right? Like it's not. It's not as scarce as we're making it out to be, right? Well, like there's a charge, but it's not what we're doing. Go ahead.
And particularly the U.S. is like one of the least populous per capita nations on the earth. Like compared to the amount of square mileage we have.
Yeah.
You compare it to something like India or something like that. It's a joke. I mean, there's so few people in the United States, and that's why it's particularly funny when you hear the conservative arguments of like, we're full. We can't take any more illegals. And I'm like, have you looked at the entire state of Idaho or something like that?
Right.
You know, like there's like 4 people in the entire state.
Yeah. We still have like a flyover country, right?
Yeah.
You see,
Like,
I could,
go ahead.
I could understand an argument of like you're saying we have too many people in existence, or we're trying to think of the environment. But I completely agree with like it's laughable when they talk about immigrants crossing the border. Like I remember watching one of those debates Chase had with someone where the guy basically said that technological advancements in Japan is why 2 million Hispanics didn't cross the river from Mexico, like the ocean from Mexico to Japan.
Uh,
Wow.
I think we should explain to him vicinity and distance.
Yeah. Right. Guy needs to
Speaking
take
of
his
common
geography
sense,
classes
everybody,
again.
from earlier.
Right. Right. But I do want to like
Wow.
I don't want to get too off on that because I want to give this moment because while the Bible has a bunch of times about like your people need rest, right? In fact, that's one of the reasons Israel's destroyed. They're not giving people like a 24-hour rest period, right? And like they're not paying people fairly. We read Aaron, was it Isaiah or Jeremiah where they said like literally we built this temple on exploitation. We didn't pay the people what they were supposed to.
I don't
What-
remember which one, but I remember us reading that.
Yeah, like we built on exploitation. So it's important to understand, and we're actually going to get to a verse later in Proverbs that says, I'm sure we'll talk about it more at that time, but that the wise consider the cause of the poor, whereas the wicked don't think about it. They're just like, stop being poor, work harder, idiots. But I still want to like give deference to the idea that laziness is still a problem. It is still a sin. It is still a mistake. And that it is possible to be lazy, right? Like we are, while I recognize that people are so coerced and dejected and put upon and hurt, laziness is still an issue, and it hurts. Like I think a lot of people think of the laziness that hurts the rich, but I'm more on the lazy that hurts like the poor, the fast car lazy. I don't care to help my family, and I'll make them help me. I'll be a burden, whatever. I don't care, like and this idea. I like the way, like I said, I like the way this is phrased because I think all of us, if you've ever been an employer or a coworker that has to pick up shifts, you know the person that's coming up with any excuse to not work, and it is so frustrating. Like it is, and like I said, Zach, I know you understand. Like this is kind of more your perspective of the thing, and I do relate. Like somebody who's just like, there's a lion in the road. Yeah, there's lions. Lions are in the world, right? Like if you can't leave your house because lions are in the world, then you're gonna live in your house, right? Like if you can't tough out, like I'm not asking everybody to suck it up, but if you have access to like some aspirin and you have a little bit of a headache, maybe try to work, right? Like maybe see if you can push through it as opposed to saying, oh, I can't work. Oh, I'm sure there's somebody else who isn't sick, and just nuke their day off because you don't want to show up to work because you got a little bit of a headache. Bray worked today because of somebody who didn't show up to work, and so nuked one of his days off and says, oh, it's so frustrating. Yeah, like it is like to me it's just really frustrating. I think because there are genuinely not lazy people that are doing their best that are getting painted as lazy people, that we don't recognize kind of the sins of the actual lazy people who are unwilling to work, unwilling to pick up shifts, and kind of have no regard for the people who get hosed by them being so lazy.
And
Any
I
thoughts
wonder,
there?
yeah, I mean, I kind of I was reading your conversation earlier with
Zach.
Zach, and how you put, how you kind of articulated the argument that I would have made had I been able to participate in the discussion.
Are you not allowed?
Well, no, I was busy. I was.
Oh, you're busy. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember muting you in the chat, but
Yeah,
someday
no,
I'm sure you'll say something.
it was like you talking about the dramatic fall off between productivity and compensation and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
I think what it was for
And that is
me
true.
is there was a major culture. Like, I was raised conservative.
Mhm.
I was Republican solidly until my mid-20s. And one of the things that I was raised on was the idea of sticking with an employer and being loyal to an employer, and the idea of like, you work at an employer for 40 years and you get retired with a pension and a gold watch and all that kind of stuff. And that is a fairy tale. Like if you aren't switching employers every 3 years, you either have an anomalously good employer or you are deliberately sabotaging yourself.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no incentive to be loyal to an employer these days because an employer is not going to be loyal to you. And so it was a major wake up call for me that the conservative mythology that I was taught as a kid of being loyal to employers is absolute nonsense.
Mhm.
And so, I go into these first couple of employers that I work for, just get hosed over and over again for all these big box stores. I started out working, I think my first real job as an adult was, I think, Kroger. It's a grocery store
Okay.
chain out here.
Mhm.
I worked as a person pushing carts, and then I moved my way up to a cashier, and then moved my way up to customer service, and then I was doing front end supervisor. And I was thinking in my head, oh, I'm building my way up. I'm going to be store manager in a couple of months, a couple of years or whatever, and then I'll be like a district manager or something like that. I thought I was building my way up into a career. No, they just happened to have slots open, and they just shoved me in there because the previous person quit because they just realized how bad it was, and I'm just the latest person in a assembly line of shit.
He doesn't know how bad it is yet.
Yeah, exactly. And so like there's absolutely no respect for employees anymore.
Mhm.
So I what I was thinking about, the reason I'm bringing all of this up is what I was thinking about is I wonder how many people that are called lazy are lazy as a result of actual laziness, and how many people are lazy because they've grown so disillusioned with how
Yeah.
bad things are that there's no reward for effort. So why bother putting in effort?
Yeah.
Well, that's where I look at it. You have to favor yourself in some capacity, or else you're not going to get anywhere in your life for purpose. So, I mean, yeah, you might have to work some shitty job, excuse my French. Um, but while you're doing it, work on something in your spare time, or keep on looking, keep on grinding, because you're gonna figure out your needs. And productivity is down because the economy is fake. It's tanked. The money is worthless. It's
Mhm.
fake. I mean, that is one instance of why you're seeing a culture that's shifting. Employers don't really have loyalty because they're big box, they're corporate. I mean, it's just like you said, Aaron. You're a conveyor belt of new talent to move up when somebody else goes bye bye because they see this. Well, this sucks. I'm out.
Yeah.
I've
You take
resonated
it.
with that personally, like recently.
Hmm. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just you should, not to like go on a rabbit hole, but like I can resonate with that idea personally, like from what you're saying and what Aaron's saying, because I applied for two different positions pertaining to
Hmm.
Centos. One was an accident, and one was on purpose. And the one I didn't mean to apply to, I talked to someone who basically sounded like they were local. They knew someone I knew that worked there, like they were familiar with, you know, any names I mentioned that were local, of like people that kind of made me aware of this. But then the next person I spoke to lived in a whole other state, even though this company is like based in Ohio. They lived in the so far away that they were like in Michigan instead of like anywhere near Cincinnati or anything. And they didn't have the same attitude. Like they were just kind of like almost wanting a body to fill the
Hmm.
position. And their email they sent me was basically like, remember certain things about this position and the corporation. And then they didn't even ask me those questions. They just almost wanted a body to fill a space.
Yeah,
The
and that's the danger, because then that's when you end up getting the lack of motivation within any type of job, so low productivity, and then you hate it because you realize you probably made a mistake because they just wanted a body. And in reality, I mean, it takes away, like, the culture that we live in today, that's been shaped, like, nobody's motivated and wanting to better themselves because they think that there's no reward in trying to work to get themselves out of that undertone of working for somebody else or what have you. And so then you just get people that just go back and forth, skipping from one job to the next, or some people that are dumping off and maybe even living off the system. Hey, why not? Um, adversely possess your taxes, everybody. So that's, I mean, there's a lack of motivation, and that's what leads to the laziness. And the laziness is a mindset, and we got to be careful. I mean, I'm all for, like, if you want to be lazy one day out of your week, or even every evening, and you're watching Netflix and eating some popcorn and going to bed, great, you're relaxing. That's cool. But then there's laziness of the mind, where you're just not working to try to better your circumstances, and you're getting stuck. That's the culture that we're in. We're getting stuck. We're letting society dictate where we're at.
I just think, like, how can you not? Because the problem is right now it takes an average of like 70 hours of work hours to sustain a household currently. And like, that's obviously, so if you want to be single income, that's one guy working 70 hours.
Yeah.
And so when you say, you know, Zach, like, oh, you know, work, but then also in your free time, build it. What free time, right? Like, you're exhausted.
That's what I was
you're
thinking.
beat down, you know, you're trashed. And so at that point, you just say, I need to spend any second that I have home eating popcorn, watching Netflix, and not doing anything else, right? Like, that becomes a matter of necessity and building up, you know, what you're able to do.
What's worse is when you're doing all of that, and they tell you, if you don't like your job, just go find another job. And I'm like, I don't know if you've tried to find a job in the last decade or so, but it is a full-time job to try to find a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to be filling out dozens or maybe even 100 job applications a day. 95% of them are going to be scanned by an AI and deemed to be useless, and they're going to just get thrown away without ever being seen by a human. And when you finally do get a job interview, you're going to be one of 150 candidates for the position. I mean, it's like,
right. And likewise, I think, like, monkey see, monkey do a little bit. But while I stand by the fact that if you are hosing somebody and making them pick up your shifts, that's a crappy behavior, right? But what is the CEO's behavior? Oh, you should be paying your employees more. Oh, I'm going to buy a 12th yacht. I'm going to buy some other, you know, whatever. Oh, I'm going to make this terrible decision with the company. My board is going to save me. And because I made that bad decision, I had to reduce my bonus to only $7 billion last quarter. Like you're just like, okay, these people do things that you would get fired for. And so you don't feel as bad then when you just say, well, I know it's not good behavior, but my CEO is like doing their best to freaking tank our sales, and he's, you know, his paycheck's just fine. He's still the CEO of the company.
And that's assuming that you don't have like a venture capitalist firm come in and buy your company and then like sell all the resources out from under you, and then the CEO flies away in a golden parachute.
Yep.
And you just get hosed.
And that's where society is dictated on the aspect that it's a fake economy.
Yeah.
It really is.
I do still want to say it is frustrating when somebody is actually lazy. And I do want to say also, while we can relate to and understand why people get lazy, that we are called to overcome, right? Like, that we are called to be the better person. Let's not screw our fellow coworkers just because our CEO is screwing us over. Like, I think a common behavior that I see among angry, I want to say misguided revolutionaries is they like people who target. I think what happens is they target fellow sufferers.
Yeah.
And
this is common even on the left. I mean, people just get so beaten down that they lash out, and they're not paying attention to who they're lashing out against.
You blow up a pipeline, and so the country loses the pipeline, goes, okay, I'm cutting off the power then to all our poor, right? Like, because now that energy is not coming in, and you just go, well, damn it, right? Like, that was not, now my collateral damage is a fellow human being. Bray says, kind of wild how the Enron crisis became hedge fund trading over the years. Yeah, it's
Not
now
wrong.
like that's just standard behavior now.
Mhm.
Bray is gonna go ahead and dunk on my prefab kit houses. I'm aware, Bray, but the fact is that you've got a roof for $20,000. That's something. And yeah, we can fit our entire population into Alaska. Yeah, I'm not going to go ahead and advertise prefab kit houses. I understand. I just think the fact that you could build something, even if you had to reinforce it, for $20,000-$30,000, a
I
two-story
haven't.
house.
Trillium domes.
I
Yeah.
haven't done a lot of research into prefab houses. What's the downside that's being discussed that I'm unaware of? Are they not structurally sound? Are they not sealed as much as they should? Or like what's the deal there?
Well, first of all, you got to build them, and so usually that adds another
Mhm.
50% to your costs. If you pay somebody else to do it, you can do it yourself, obviously. The other issue is like a leaky roof, right? Like
Mhm.
Ceiling.
yeah, ceiling. A lot of times that like the one with the pool is like the pool on top, but it's like flat on top, which structurally is not great for like wind. So like yeah, you're getting
Mhm.
damages to your windows, and then yeah, so like I think yeah, windows more likely to crack, walls more likely to have problems, less insulation from the environment, which not only like even if you just say, oh, that's fine, I'll buy an AC unit or something like that, not having that amount of insulation can result in more damage to the inside of your house as well.
I mean, to be fair, you're spending $20,000 versus
That's what I was saying, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I just think it was an awakening moment for a lot of people when they realized, like, it just went viral because people were like, we are paying way more than what we should be paying for dirt. Like, and that's not right.
Mhm.
Bray says, I agree with most kitchens and I've walked out a half a dozen. This place is weird because it rewards individual performance. I can't understand why anyone would quit. Good. I'm glad that you're liking it.
It
Bray is stuck to 1 day off for the next month, possibly no nights. The OT pay helps though. This gets back to my issue. We should be giving you, first of all, a day off. Second of all, a day to think about God, right? A day of prayer, right? Like if we're practicing. So that's at a minimum of 2 days, right? One for recovery and one to like focus on God. And then work on some of the others. But again, like, I mean, how many times now has the Bible talk about making? I mean, we just read one earlier about receiving the fruit of what you deserve, right? Like that's, I mean, I want to say just reading the Bible so far, that's got to be at least 30 times, right? Like that it's like, make sure your people are getting their fair due. And we're all aware we're not getting our fair due. Let's see. Bray says, they're nowhere near as structurally sound as brick and beam. I built both. I've only seen one kind fall over several times. Oh gosh. Well, if I ever buy one, Bray, I'll ask which brand that was, and I'll make sure to avoid it. They're inherently bad. Just make sure the company is reputable. Okay, fair enough. I'm sure the one that was $20,000 was probably not the most, but
I was gonna say, like in my head, I'm thinking if you get a $20,000 house, you're not expecting the Taj Mahal. Like,
yeah, it had a pool in it, which I found like almost like wild. Like I think that's part of why it went viral as well, is because it was like I could have a pool on top of my house as well as 20,000, like as well as the rest of the house for $20,000.
Wait, it's on top of the house?
Yeah, the pool was like on top of the house.
That sounds terrible. Like to have like
it does
10,000 gallons of water on your roof. Like that just seems like a.
I should look it up. Like I might remember it wrong. I'll try to look this back up, like what it was. The thing is, I'm gonna have to look it up from where it was a long time ago.
That just sounds asinine. Like just a recipe for disaster.
I remember Home Depot even had to comment about it, like because it was going so like wild. But yeah, sorry, what was that, Zach?
Oh, I said, or what you really do to really cut costs is you go buy the sheds. You know how one of the big sheds from Lowe's or Home Depot looks like an actual house. Stick that puppy on land, and then you can just add to it every so often.
I have actually hooked up a shed with electricity and plumbing before for somebody to live in as a guest house. Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
My father commits local tax fraud because he
yeah.
he built a he built a garage on his property, and
Uh-huh.
inside the garage there's like a full blown house. Um, like it looks like a garage from the
Nice.
outside, but you walk in and there's actually a garage space, and then further into the garage is a house. He just lives in the house, and it's for title purposes and everything like that. It's just a garage.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like it.
Quite nice.
yeah.
All right.
Good
I got to
stuff.
push us along here, and I'm going to have to sacrifice a few Bible verses just because we've been having these have been great conversations, and that's the point why we do these Bible studies. Let your heart go wherever it would like to go. Alex, did you have any thoughts on this one before we moved on? You've been so listening and patient, and I want to make sure we don't. I know what it's like to be a patient person and not get the chance to speak, which is why I'm so chatty later in life. He's muted, but so he's probably okay. Maybe he stepped away. Thinking about you. Love you. If you have any comments, Alex, go ahead and don't be afraid to pipe up here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to move on to Titus. And I had a verse here. Let's see here. Let me see. I want to find the word myth. Yes. Okay. Again, brutal takedown of the Old Testament, but this is something that we need to talk about here. They must stop listening to Jewish myths and the commands of people who've turned away from the truth. And again, this in the context of what we're talking about here, he's actually talking about people who are adhering to the Mosaic law. And again, we've already talked about how many of these things in the Genesis, they were written as myths, so they weren't trying to deceive anybody. It's just the thing is they were myths and were supposed to be used to help us understand. God was not actually concerned we were going to reach him with the Tower of Babel. Heartbreaking, I know, to anybody hearing that for the first time, but to anybody who thought that humanity was going to build a structure that was actually going to reach God and God got concerned about it, that's not. Even the people who heard that story knew it wasn't true. It was just an explanation for them, or just a way to think about it for them to understand how we became different people. That story is actually supposed to be unifying, to know that we actually were one people and that we got scattered around, and that we're actually supposed to recognize each other as unifiers. That's the point of the myth. But the way it's told, it didn't actually happen that way. Stop listening to Jewish myths and the commands of people, this law of Moses stuff, who have turned away from the truth. Because what is more important? Your Jewish myth, even if it's in the Bible, I understand, or the truth? The truth is what's more important, right? Like, I think it's there, John, that just says, like, my greatest joy is that you walk in the truth, right? We just want to make sure that people are Christians are supposed to love truth. Right? We find a new truth. We're supposed to be excited about it. I know I quote this a lot. It's the one parable I think I kind of didn't have a great understanding on until we read it through this last time. But that parable of the quartermaster who brings out both the old truths and then the new truths together every time it's time to speak, right? Like, to be like, hey, look what else I found. Like a quartermaster, you have your old, your tried and true stuff when you're a quartermaster, your old stuff, but you also you want to get a hold of the new stuff, right? Like, if you're in the market, you want to be like, hey, what's new? What's exciting? What's fresh? Let's embrace it, right? And that's what we should do with truth. What's new? What's exciting? What's fresh? I'm not saying we turn away from the Bible, because like you said, he brings out the old truths as well as the new truths. Like, we bring out what is established, what we know. We know love is good. We know loving our neighbor is good. We know God is good. We know, we know all these great things that are in the Bible. But let's also say, oh, did we find out something new scientifically? Oh, could this help us with medicine? Could this help me love my neighbor better? Could this help feed more people? Let's embrace that, as opposed to being Christians that try to find some verse about how, like, verse that they can find that maybe all of a sudden, oh, synthetic meats are evil now, because I think I found a verse that maybe says that synthetic meats are evil or something like that. Like, embrace what is true. If we can feed more people, let's do it. If there is something that is just accurate, then we should, like, as Christians, we're called, like I said, we're called to place that higher than our Jewish myths. And I think that's a challenge for a lot of Christians of our era. But are we willing to prioritize the truth above our myths? like I said, the Bible is a tool. It's to be used. But do we prioritize? Sometimes I think we adhere to it more than we adhere to science. The idea that you are practicing Christianity more when you're reading the Bible than when you're reading like a textbook about calculus is factually, like, that's not biblical itself, right? Like, learning the truth is a good, godly thing. Knowledge is godly. Accuracy is godly. I'm not saying that we, like, I think people hear this and they say we just throw the Bible out all the time, which I think is like the opposite of what we should do. In fact, this is kind of one of the issues that the Catholics had when they were fighting against Martin Luther, right? Is that they had tossed parts of the Bible out for their own agenda, right? And so this is like why we needed to why the Catholics needed to re-adhere to those truths, to be like, okay, we threw out some things that were true. I'm not saying we abandon the true parts of the Bible at all, right? Like, Jesus is meaningful. There's a reason I'm still a Christian, you know? But when it comes to what we know to be truthful and accurate, we cannot let the Bible tell us, like, the Bible will confirm to us what is truthful and accurate with the Holy Spirit, as opposed to being used to turn us away. I hope all that makes sense. Any thoughts about
Yeah.
it?
That's why we call it sacred scripture. And I think that's where the gravity of the situation in all these divisions are anymore, is there's a fight between what to take literal and what to take metaphorical. And as a Catholic, I've learned this, and I've learned this even when I was absent of my Catholicism that I grew up in. And even as a deist, I started understanding this a little bit. But we have to start learning that there are certain areas when we look to the Bible for guidance and inspiration of the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
First, it was written by men, but the co-author was God. And through what God wants you to know in your heart, you are going to find, if you read it in a specific way, that's reflecting on it, that's meditating on it, that's praying on it, and actually observing it from my perspective. And so you're going to find what is meant as a teaching, and then what is meant to be literal, and then even within the literal there's a teaching. So it's all teaching you what the word of God is. So
Yeah, I really love that, Zach, because I think people would say, why is there an inaccurate thing in the Bible? And I think that teaches us so much about the word of God, like God allowing these incorrect things to be put in the Bible teaches you to understand the Bible for what it is. Don't make the Bible God. The Bible is not your deity, right? Like, you are not worshiping pages. You're supposed to worship the inspiration. You're supposed to worship what it's actually saying. And so when Jesus says, yeah, I allowed you to kick your wives to the curb because, like, of whatever, because your hearts were so hard, that sheds a light on everything else that is from that era. When we read it and we say, oh, should we also be, slaughtering animals still? Should we also be stoning gay people or something like that? Like, should we all be doing these other things now? That understanding that God allowed us to do certain things in the name of God because our hearts were so hard helps us understand that God meets us where we are, and that it's a matter of progression, that Jesus is like, yes, if you understand that, then you're excited for the next truth. You're supposed to be excited for the next truth, as opposed to going back to an old fiction, And I think that by including those fictions within the Bible, it tells us that we can't even make the Bible itself that truth, right? Like, that the Bible is not that. Jesus says the Bible lied to us, right? Like, he tells us that. And so by knowing that, it enables us to truly love the Bible for what it is. There's more to dig into. I love the Bible more than a person who holds it up as an idol, because a person who holds it up as an idol sees it as an overlord, whereas I see it as a companion that is able to be understood, to help me learn, to teach me in my current times. Alex, Aaron, any other thoughts there?
No, I agree with that completely.
Okay. Bray says, I'm an Arya Sufist, so I am genetically related to 80% of the people on Earth, religiously related to 95%. And I like this part, spiritually related to 100%. All right, we're vastly running out of time here, and I am going to, you know what? I will make this an extreme pitch because I'm not sure if we've ever had this many viewers before. So thank you all so much for everybody who is watching. Ordinarily, we talk about like a lot of current events. I didn't even get to like half of the Bible notes that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and make a pitch. If you are interested in any of this, I have my notes about this in the Love First Christians Discord. The description of this video has that invitation. It is open. I know many of you who are viewing are not believers, and I really just want to thank you for your curiosity. And we welcome curious people into the Love First Christians. If you just want to discuss, we have a whole channel for that interaction, and it's our most popular channel. So I just want to say you're very welcome. I encourage you to join. I am saddened, tears that I am not able to get to everything. I do want to get to one of the ones that has impacted my faith the most.
I gotta drop off, y'all. Kiddo needs book reading.
Okay, Aaron. Hey, kiddo. I see kiddo. Hey.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks for being a good dad. I'll catch you tomorrow, Aaron.
All right, sounds good. Bye.
Have a good one.
Good night, Aaron.
So this one here, everything is pure to those whose hearts are pure, but nothing is pure to those who are corrupt and unbelieving, because their mind and consciences are corrupted. Such people claim they know God, but they deny him by the way they live. They are detestable and disobedient, worthless for doing anything good. This, I think, completely turned the way I saw the world around, because I thought the righteous people would be sickened by this corrupt world, right? They would look around the world and say, look at this filth everywhere. Look at these disgusting people who are beneath me. Look at these, low-level peons and these sinners, and be sickened when they look around the world. And then I thought the evil people would be like, oh, this world's wonderful. I get to do, I come out ahead in life. I'm doing all these evil things. But it's completely the opposite. People whose hearts are pure see purity everywhere. Everything is pure is what it says, right? We see goodness everywhere. If you're a good person, you see goodness in people. You see the loving God inside of them. You see that image of God everywhere if you're a good person. And it's when you're a bad person that's when you look everywhere and you see evil. And boy, I hate to bring this up, but Hitler's got a really good point on this one, because he's like, listen, when you tell the lie, everybody lies. Everybody's a liar like me. They don't think you're going to lie about maybe the big things. So just lie constantly, right? Because they'll understand you. They'll relate to you. And Hitler embodies this because he sees evil everywhere, right? Like he is that evil person who sees evil everywhere. He says everybody lies. When we had that leaked chat from the Young Republicans, and we saw the evil people who pretended to be good, by the way, these were all the self-righteous, wonderful people. And they're like, who doesn't tell rape jokes? It doesn't say they love Hitler? Everybody tells racist jokes. Everybody's making fun of this because they think everybody's like them, right? They that know themselves are corrupted, right? And the explanation given here is perfect. Their minds and consciences are corrupted. So they see evil everywhere because they themselves are evil. Whereas if you're a good person, you see goodness everywhere. Satan is the infiltrator. You don't see this world as Satan and God is the infiltrator. God is everything and Satan is the infiltrator. And that's the way a pure mind thinks of everything. So when you are looking around the world, the reason it changed my faith so much is I used to love angry Christians, I guess is the best way to say it. They just saw evil everywhere or whatever. But the more it came to light, and every time you dig into their lives, they're cheating on their wives. There's some scandal about how they're cheating people at church with their money. They're bankrupting places. They're lying constantly. They're judging, right? We all see that, right? Like they're judging constantly. That they were the evil ones. And of course, they saw evil everywhere because they see everybody like themselves, evil. Whereas we, like, if you have a pure heart and you know that you crave that purity, of course you make mistakes. We all make mistakes, right? Like, we recognize that. But you look around and you see everybody else as just a fellow brother or sister caught in that struggle, right? That you see their goodness. And you say, I can redeem them. I can save them. I want them to be saved. I care about them. I want them to have their needs met. You know, I care about who these people are. They're pure like me. They desire that purity. We mess up sometimes, sure. And I love this verse. I guess that's all I can really say about it, is just, it really turns on its head the way we see the world. That the most righteous people aren't the ones being like, look how evil this terrible world is. No, those are the evil people telling you how terrible this world is and how awful it is, right? It's the good people that are seeing goodness everywhere, that see purity everywhere. Pure people see purity everywhere, and evil people see evil everywhere. Your thoughts, Zach?
I mean, I'll say an example that happened to me today. Actually, my water got turned off, and I started freaking out a little bit because I hadn't gotten my bill yet, which they're supposed to email and send it to me in the mail, and which they have not done yet. And so I was freaking out because it's getting closer to the end of the month. Like, how would they not even announce that they're going to shut my water off? Turns out there was a water main break, so they had to turn the water off to fix it. That's what I found out. But I was dragging on this and that, and kind of wanted to curse them. Like, I guarantee you, if I call and try to figure this out, I'm going to get rudeness, this, that, and so I wasn't going to call. I was just going to be like, whatever, I'll just deal with it. And I'll go in tomorrow or next week, Monday or something. And then I'll just deal with it. And then something just dawned on me, and I just figured I will call, because then I went on. I'm not set up on theirs, on their little online account thing to actually maybe just see everything online. So I went and did a little exploring, jumped on that, had issues with trying to set up the account, so I just wouldn't have this issue anymore. So I kind of was forced to call. So I called, and probably one of the best interactions, most help I've ever gotten from anybody ever in my life. When it came to issues like this, really, it was, the lady that I talked to, sweet lady, she got everything. I'm like, well, there's an update that needs to happen in the system. Jump on and try setting up the account tomorrow, and then you should be good to go. Gave me the rundown of what I owe, and then that was it. We go. I still got about a week to get everything together to pay it forth, and the interaction was great. So from what you're saying, Hody, you do. We have to understand that people are just people. You know, instead of looking at the bad all the time, which like I said, I dwell in a lot of negative a lot of the times as well. But when we dwell in negative, we're just going to inevitably prophesize. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're going to prophesize negativity for ourselves. So, we have to look at everybody as ourselves, and everybody else needs to do the same with themselves as well. Like, we all can be kind, and we all can be self-absorbed assholes. It's just inevitable. But most of the time, most people just want to deal with what they need to deal with and treat people as best as they can and with as much respect as they can, because we all want respect in the end anyway. So, and that's how you get respect, is to give respect. So, you hit it.
Yeah, I love the way you phrase that, because it's like self-creating, right? Like, if you put that purity out in the world, that respect,
Yeah.
you get respect back, right? Like, if you're treating everybody like they're good, that's going to confirm it to you, right? Whereas if you're treating everybody with like vile words, then you're going to get vile in response, and so you kind of self-fulfill either prophecy, right? Like, but there is a correct answer, and like that's the right one. Alex, I'm going to give you any final thoughts about this one before we adjourn. He may just be away. He may be away. Okay. In that case, like I said, guys, I didn't get to half of my Bible verses, but this conversation, I think this was one of my favorites that we've ever had. It just, we let it wander, and that's good. We want to let it wander. So, like I said, everybody, we got like record viewers right now, and I'm just really grateful that everybody found it not only valid enough to click on, but valid enough to watch over 2 hours of Bible stream. So I appreciate that. That people might appreciate it. Alex just private messaged me, said he's away. Alex, that's okay, buddy. Thank you so much. You have a good night, man. Yeah, everybody else, Love First Christians, links in the Discord to join. We do this weekly. If that's something you want to be a part of, if you just want to see notes about it, that's great. If you want to read the Bible in a year, we're finishing this year, but the Bible channel, Bible in 1 year, is going to be up. And so that way you'll just forever be able to read the Bible there. Bray says, love y'all. He says, I got to check out, but I love sinners more than the self-righteous. Sinners have potential. Sinners need or want direction. Sinners seek growth. What you stop seeing yourself as any other sinner, you're lost. And yeah, I think that's exactly what we went over in Proverbs, right? Like people who call themselves fools, they get it. People who call themselves wise, danger, red flag. We're all sinners. We've all fallen short, and the more we recognize that we're not above that, the more we connect to other people, and the closer we are to that purity, the more we see goodness in others. So I'm glad you guys, I'm glad you all related to this, to that, like I did, because that was a big one for me. But yeah, like I said, if you want to be a part of this, please join us. At the end of this year, we're going to be making some big plans as far as what we want to do. And here's the thing, those big plans are a matter of what our community wants to do. And so if you feel called, if you even are not Christian and you just say, I wish Christian communities would be better at this, that, or the other, you can have a say in what we actually do. This will be turned to, I am not making plans. I am not ahead of time saying, here's what I hope we do. I will have opinions, of course, on whatever is brought up. But there's just a lot of exciting things on the horizon, and we have a lot of great people who can contribute. We didn't get to Philemon today. It's a one chapter book of the Bible, but he's just a guy who had a church out of his house, and Paul felt him important enough to write to. And so we're small. I know we're small. We could obviously dissolve and join one of the bigger, there's a lot of great Christian organizations out there that still focus on love. It's there. I understand they seem rare in America these days, but they do. Not everybody took the knee to MAGA. A lot of people are still good folks. But I like what we have, right? Like as a small group, I think that our group is doing something that I don't want to just see get borged into generally supporting, and I encourage people to work with those guys, but I think that we have some unique points of view that we can actually do some really good things. So anyway, if that's something you want to be a part of, Love First Christians, the link to the Discord is in the description of this video. Other than that, Zach, Alex, Aaron, Bray, everybody joined. Thank you so much for joining us this weekend or this week. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.